You know how some people solve problems that just feel, well, impossible? In this explainer, we're going to unpack a super powerful mental model that might just change the way you look at everything. We're diving into Chapter 1 of the First Principles Thinking course from our friends over at Venture.com Academy to show you exactly how it's done.
So let's just start with that big question. How do you solve an impossible problem? You know the kind I'm talking about, the one where everyone just says, nope, can't be done, or that's just the way it is. Seriously, this one question is the engine behind pretty much all human progress.
Well, it turns out the answer is a shared way of thinking. It's a mental model that's been used by some of the greatest minds in history. I'm talking about the philosopher Aristotle, the brilliant physicist Richard Feynman, and even modern-day innovators like Elon Musk. They all tapped into the exact same problem-solving technique.
So what is this secret weapon they all share? It's called first principles thinking. And let me tell you, it's not just some clever trick. It's a full-on method for taking problems apart to see what's really possible.
Okay, so what it really boils down to is this. First principles thinking is all about breaking a complex problem down into its most basic, most fundamental pieces. The absolute truths that you just can't argue with. It's kind of like ignoring the recipe everyone else is following and instead looking at the raw ingredients to see what you can build from scratch.
Now, this is totally different from how most of us are taught to think, right? We usually reason by analogy. We look at what's already out there and try to make little improvements. That's how you get a slightly faster horse. But first principles thinking, it ignores the horse completely. It starts with the fundamental truth, the need for transportation, and builds the car from the ground up. One path leads to tiny tweaks, the other leads to world-changing breakthroughs.
All right, so this all sounds amazing, right? But how do you actually do it? Well, the good news is there's a really clear blueprint. It's a 4-step process, and it's honestly more straightforward than you might think.
Here's the playbook. First, you lock down the core problem you're trying to solve. Step 2, you break that problem all the way down to its fundamental truths, its absolute basics. Third, you get critical, and you investigate every single one of those little components. And finally, step 4, you rebuild a brand new solution from scratch, from the ground up. This whole process forces you to innovate instead of just imitating what's already been done.
So why go through all this trouble? What's the real impact of thinking this way? Well, it turns out that benefits go way beyond just solving one little problem. When you start doing this, it fundamentally changes the game for you. It sparks real, genuine innovation because you're free from all those old assumptions. It makes you an incredibly good problem solver, helps you think for yourself, and you know what? It builds this rock-solid confidence in the solutions you come up with.
And look, this isn't just for a few geniuses. Think of this thing as a universal tool. Engineers are using it to build revolutionary tech. Entrepreneurs use it to completely disrupt industries. Scientists use it to challenge old theories. Even in education, it helps students actually understand things instead of just memorizing a bunch of facts.
And really, what we've talked about so far is just the beginning. Think of it as the foundation for a whole new way of seeing the world. Your journey to mastering this way of thinking, well, it starts right now.
And hey, congratulations! You've just completed Chapter 1. You now have the foundational tools of first principles thinking. You've officially taken that huge first step towards unlocking a seriously powerful new way to innovate and tackle challenges. So the big question now is, are you ready to go deeper? Because what we've covered here is just the introduction. The next step is where we start putting these incredible ideas into practice. To keep this journey going, you can head right over to beventure.com. You can dive into the next chapter, you can take the entire course, and you can get awesome extra tools like quizzes and notes to really make sure you've got this stuff down. There's even a downloadable infographic you can grab. Everything you need is right in the link in the description below. The power of this whole thing really starts with just one question. So I'll leave you with this. What's one long-held assumption in your job, in your life, that you are gonna challenge first?